Welcome to the first episode of Don't Work with Tossers, the podcast. A podcast to help you rid your life of tossers and improve your work-life blend. I want to welcome my first guest, Naomi Timperley, who isn't only my first guest, but she's a great friend of mine as well. Naomi is co-founder of Tech North Advocates and GSI. And we will probably be here a long time talking about tossers. Naomi, tell us how long you've been self-employed and what your background was before that, and how was the tosser rating in self-employment versus your former work life?
So I've had multiple careers. My first career after leaving college was travel. So I worked as a travel agent, a Lumpoly. Anyone can remember Lumpoly. Worked there for about 3 years. Quite a few tossers there, actually, customer-wise. And then I went to go and work for Boden Holidays in London. This is when I was living down south. And worked with them in London for 2 years, and then worked in Bulgaria for 2 summers and 2 winters the previous 2 years. And in between that, my mum moved up north. So I used to come home in between seasons. I then met my husband, Max, whilst I was working overseas, and he was from Sale in the burbs of Manchester, so eventually moved there. I then transitioned from the travel industry to recruitment, and I worked in tech recruitment in the late 90s, which was fun. There was loads of tossers in recruitment, but that's not to say that every recruitment company is full of tossers, because it's not. I know lots and lots of wonderful recruitment people and agencies. And then I helped set up a travel recruitment company, and then took 4 years to have my daughters, which was a wonderful experience. And I really didn't have any sort of career aspirations. I didn't want to go back to the job that I was doing before. And I came across an American events company that was in 27 cities across America, and it was called Baby Love Cisco. And I saw it and I thought, that would be so cool. I've not danced for God knows how many years. And I emailed them on the whim and said, have you thought about bringing it to the UK? I live in Manchester. I've got lots of experience of, because as a rep, we had to do quite a lot of events and things like that. And obviously, as a mum, women are brilliant at multitasking, whether you're a mum or not. And I think just those skills. So they came back to me and said, look, we haven't, we have thought about bringing it to the UK. Somebody came over to New York and basically copied the idea, a Sky News presenter actually, and it didn't go anywhere. And they said, look, if you wanted to do it, you'd have to do it in London as well. That was in January of 2007. In September of 2007, we launched in London and Manchester. Within 2 years, we were in 9 cities across the UK. We did loads of really cool things, like we had a TV advertised album with Universal. We had, sponsorship and licensing deals. But I sort of fell out of love with it after about 4 years. And the reason I did, because in 2008, I did Dragon's Den, got off an investment, turned it down. And fell in love with women's entrepreneurship and youth entrepreneurship. So I sold my shares in the events company to our Scottish host mum, Leslie, who was running it up until last year, actually. And I set up a youth enterprise and employability company called Enterprise Lab with 2 guys that I met on Twitter, Catan and Sabian. And that was very much to bridge the gap between education, employment and enterprise. And we worked with schools, colleges and universities and the sort of public and private sector. A lot of it was to do with entrepreneurial thinking and how to come up with ideas. And I loved it. Came away from it because it had gone into a different direction that I wanted to. I didn't want to go into the direction they got involved with startup loans and things like that, and that wasn't my bag. And I've sort of been consulting ever since. So I do a number of different things. I wear a number of hats. So I'm co-founder of Tech North Advocates, which I run with a guy called Volker Hirsch. Tech North Advocates was born out of Tech London Advocates. It's now a global initiative which is private sector led. It's all about advocating tech in your area, but supporting those tech businesses and founders. So it's a bit like connecting the dots, which I'm pretty good at. I also am co-founder of We Are GSI, which is a consultancy that I run with a guy called Vikas Shah, and that's all around growth strategy and innovation. And then separately to that, I've designed and delivered award-winning entrepreneurship programs for the private and public sector, predominantly in the tech, digital and creative sectors, but also work with those scale-ups as well. I am the growth partner for Inspirance growth clubs in Manchester, and I've just taken on a 1 day a week role for Oxford Innovation as Innovation Director at their Merseyway Innovation Centre in Stockport, which is very exciting. I'm also involved with a few universities and sit on a couple of boards. So lots of things. Busy lady, but I would say, just going back to your sort of question, what's the difference between working for yourself and working for somebody else, as in the tosser rating? It's definitely much higher when you're working for yourself.
Yeah, because I do think you think that when you work for yourself, it's often perceived that you can do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it, and that isn't the case. And I think it's also perceived that you can more or less pick and choose the people that you work with, which is definitely not the case. So you do find yourself working with tossers on occasion, although I set some criteria in 2017 for what I wanted to do, and that was if it doesn't bring me income, if it doesn't bring me happiness, if it doesn't bring me promotion to bring me income or happiness, then I'm not doing it. I won't work with organisations that take all my knowledge and expertise and don't credit me for it, written or financial, which you will absolutely get with some of the stuff you've done. I won't work with organisations that are just ticking boxes, don't have the end user at heart. And I won't work with tossers is criteria 6. Well, it was criteria 6 in 2017. In 2023, it's criteria number 1. And here we are. Don't work with tossers is like the first thing. I have my little book of tossers that actually, if somebody behaves like a tosser, then they go in that book. Date entry, name entry, tossery behaviour. And if they ever come back to me again and say, can I work with you? I'm flicking through that book thinking, no, because this is how you behaved last time. And it's important, I think, as you know, I work with business owners to help ensure their well-being is as good as it can be and their work-life blend. But I think it's important that we actually understand that we need to rid ourselves of those people to improve. But as we get older, we get less tolerant, especially when you get to being a lady of a certain age and you're going through certain things in your life, the menopause, and I think as you're doing that, you really have no tolerance. How's your tolerance level for tossers?
I've always had quite a low tolerance, but I'm one of those people, I always give people the benefit of the doubt, and actually I give people lots and lots of chances. But if you cross me too many times, it's just, that's it. It is definitely less tolerant since, as I got older. I think I'm also a big believer of surrounding yourself with people who will let you shine, but also give you that positivity. And I'm very values and morals driven. So I can't work with people that don't align with those values and morals. It's been very difficult because, as working for yourself, sometimes you have to take the work when there isn't other work around. And I've had, a number of experiences since working for myself. But yeah, I think I can't work with people who don't have the sort of moral compass that I do.
Yeah, and I think the other thing as well is that, this episode, one person's tosser is another person's lover, and that's so true. And in fact, some of us might have found that a former lover turned into a complete tosser, but it's understanding that tossers are subjective. It's a bit like the food we eat or the clothes we wear or the politicians we vote for, and that's maybe a whole episode in itself, is that one. Politicians who are tossers, but we need to think about the legalities of this, don't we?
Yes, of course.
But I think tossers are subjective, and somebody that I perceive as a tosser may not be the same person that you perceive as a tosser.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's understanding the traits, like you say, values is very, very important. For me, it's about the way people behave towards you. Again, the same thing, values. It's the way people treat you. It's the way
but how they treat others as well.
Yeah,
you know, I think I've worked with clients and seen the way that they've treated other people, and it's been absolutely appalling. And I think, again, you know, you treat people with respect, and you treat people how you'd like to be treated yourself. So yeah, I think the definition of what a tosser is to somebody, like you say, one person is very different to another. And you know what? I'm sure there's loads of people that think I am a massive tosser. I know that there is, and that's okay. I think as you get older, you're more accepting of that actually not everyone's going to like you. Yeah.
I mean, I have a poster hanging in my office that my lovely designer Gaynor Carr did for me, and it says more Marmite than Magnolia, Tina Boden, the micro business specialist, and she did it for me a few years ago when I was doing all the micro business campaigning, because I actually understand that I am more Marmite than Magnolia, and I'm not going to apologise for that. It's like this podcast. I don't think that everybody's going to enjoy it. But there's hundreds of thousands of other podcasts that you can go and listen to, or other videos that you can watch to get business tips and life lessons. But I think it is about the way we treat people. Even if we don't like them, we don't have to treat them badly. We can move on and go and you know, rid ourselves of them. There's a piece of a poem called Reason, Season or Lifetime, and if you read that, it talks about why people are in your life. They're there for a reason, or they're there for a season, or they're there for a lifetime. And I was introduced to that by a lady called Kate Hardcastle, that poem, and I go back to it regularly. When something happens in my life, and you know, somebody might have treated me badly, or somebody's moved on to, you're no longer in contact with them, or you don't have that same relationship that you used to. But again, it's not necessarily that they've been a tosser, but it's also making you understand why these things happen. And it's back to that tolerance, because we shouldn't have to tolerate bad behaviour towards us. We shouldn't have to tolerate people treating us badly in a bad way. And we don't necessarily, you know, but we don't necessarily need to hang around them.
Well, there's that whole thing around, you know, people can take advantage of nice people. You know, I think I'm a nice person. I think I'm a decent person. But don't take that as being a sign that you could take advantage. Do you understand what I mean? And I'm very sort of straight talking, as you know, and that's probably why we get on, because you are very straight talking as well. But I think I have had people take advantage of me because I have been nice. But again, I think as you get older, the tolerance to those people becomes less and less. But I'm still going to be nice Naomi. I'm not going to change the way that I treat people just because I've been taken advantage of. And I think that's the thing where you have to sort of be careful that you don't try and change your nature, because it's in my nature to try and help people. That's what I like doing. Yeah, Queen of Connections is what I call you, because you are, and you do that. You connect people and bring people together, and so do I. And it is about that caring thing. It's how you care for others. I know that one of my problems is, and I probably do this a lot less than I did when like a decade ago, but I am a caring person. But I'm much better at putting myself first now than I was, because of those people that took advantage of you. When Tony and I stopped campaigning for micro business, when we stopped Microbiz Matters, one of the reasons that we stepped down for that after a decade was because we'd spent so much time investing our own money, our contribution,
But what we did realise that there were a lot of people taking advantage of what we were doing, expecting those services for free. And you're the same. You know, how many of us have had that? Oh, can we meet you for a coffee?
Yeah.
And you go, and because of your nature, you automatically end up sharing advice and giving them. And some of them are grateful, and some of you don't mind, but some of them are just absolutely taking advantage of.
I think also as well that there's a very big difference as well when people are, especially when people are employed and they're doing that. Because, you know, for you as a self-employed person to take the time to go and have a coffee with somebody, especially I think the most annoying thing that I get is when somebody openly says, oh, can I pick your brain? It's taken me years to get all the stuff in my brain. Like 52, even though I identify as 42. It's taken a long time to get to that point. And I think if somebody to sort of say openly, oh yeah, can I just pick your brain? It's very different if you're sort of saying to somebody, oh, you know, I'll have a brew with you and you know, and help and whatever. But when you're meeting somebody who's employed and they're getting paid for their time and you having to take that time out of your schedule, because, you know, time is money, isn't it?
Yeah.
And actually, you know, going to meet somebody, the time it takes to get there, spend the time with that person, and then go back and do what you're doing is you know, it's all time's money. But I allocate time in my diary every week to do things that I believe in and support causes and you know, people that I believe in as well. So I think I've always had that give back, and it's like, do you know what? I obviously reeled off all those different things that I do, but I can do those things because I allocate time to them.
Yeah.
And I think it's very difficult when people try and take advantage of your time as well.
Yeah, it is. And the allocating time is certainly a key thing for me with the programme that I've written, the Work-Life Blend programme. It's like allocating time slots in your calendar is so important, because you have to earn that money.
Yeah.
You have to be able to do that, to be able to give back your time. And I'm like you, I give back a percentage of my time to charities and good causes. We're both trustees of charities, and that's part of what we do and the beliefs that we have. But it comes back to my criteria, and you know, when people come along and take advantage of your knowledge and expertise and use it as their own, or don't credit you for it, and it is that
the credit thing is annoying as well, actually. Yeah. I've had that quite a lot, but I know other people that have had that. So you know, you've supported somebody, and do you know what, a thank you is fantastic. Just a thank you, that's all. It doesn't need to be anything else. Yeah.
Yes, and it is important, and having gratitude and showing that gratitude stops you from turning into other people perceiving you as a tosser, I think, though. We say that it's going to happen, and that's absolutely.
But another thing I'd also like to say, though, is that I think you can become consumed by tossers.
Yeah.
So I've had experiences over the last couple of years where I've worked with really not very nice people, and, you know, continue to work with them, even though I should have listened to my gut and walked away from that. And I think I'm still quite bitter about it. I'll admit, I'm one of them people that holds a grudge. I can't help it. It's a really bad fault of mine. I need to let go, because I think it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
I think it can become consuming.
Yeah. I'm not very good at holding a grudge, you see. I'm the opposite.
I know. I'm that grudge person.
You're that grudge person. Yeah, okay. So let's just learn from this that if you've hacked Naomi off, the likelihood of the likelihood of you ever getting back into her good books is very small. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting what you say about that, though, because these types of people, the tosser types, can become all-consuming. Mm-hmm. They can get under your skin. They can mess with your head, make you believe that you're not really the right, a good person. Mm-hmm. Or, I mean, I've had a previous experience in a former life where I had that, and you you realise that actually it can take you a long time to get over that.
Yeah.
So though I don't hold a grudge, I say that the memory is not lost of what's happened and how that impacted me. Because I know it took me 10, 15 years to get over that, and I certainly wouldn't be sitting here doing what I'm doing now, or really the stuff that I've done over the last 10 or 15 years, if I'd continued believing what some people had tried to, indoctrinate into me about who the type of person I was. Or
no, I get that, and I think another I'm going to say another fault of mine also is I am very loyal to people that I'm friends with, and if they've been treated bad by people, I almost take on their disappointment and their problem, and it's like you kind of have to, because people have different experiences with people, don't they?
Yeah.
And again, you say one person's tosser, and I know one particular person who's got a really good gut, and actually my 18-year-old daughter's got a really good gut feeling about lots of things, and she always like told you so, told you, knew that person was a bit. And but I have to be careful that I don't always take on other people's shit.
Yeah. But I think some of that is the roles that you've had and the work that you've done, because you do get involved in a lot of groups, and it's very easy to do that. And I've certainly got better at that over the last couple of years. And I know, we joke about being menopausal, but I know as coming out the other side, I've got a lot better at not having to take on everybody's problems, or not having to be. I'm a control freak, and I know that, but I've come to understand there's certain things that I can't control, or actually I don't need to control. So I've got to let it go. I was on the train yesterday, going to Leeds, and I sat opposite a lady, and the train stopped, and there was a trespasser on the line, and she sat opposite me, and she looked at me, and we hadn't really engaged in conversation, and she went, "Oh, I think I'm going to miss my connection." And she said, "And I'm such a control freak," she said, that I want to control everything. So I started laughing, and she said, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "Oh, I'm exactly the same." I said, "But neither of us can control this situation, so we've just got to let it go." And she said, "You're right, that's great advice, thank you very much." So it's for me, it's back to understanding what we can do to improve the work-life blend, not the balance, because it's all about blending it, but it's what we can do and how we can get rid of these people, and actually how, and understanding that we don't have to be liked by everybody, and we don't have to like everybody. No,
but I think just the kind of person, it's taken me years to get to that point, because I want to be liked.
Yeah.
I think that's just me, Naomi, when she was like, at school, wearing Elton John glasses with a wonky ear, looking like I'd always sat on the glasses and hadn't. I was always a bit of a geek at school, not like a clever geek, but just like a geek. And I still feel like that Naomi the geek. I feel like an imposter in my own skin. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't perceive you as a geek. And I
was a right geek. I'll have to show the pictures after this.
Oh.
Really bad haircut, glasses. So glasses are cool now. When I show people pictures, "Oh yeah, you look really cool." Honestly, at school, I wasn't. The lenses are really thick. I was tall, skinny, big feet, no boobs. And look at me now.
Well, I think you're wonderful, and I would like to thank you for being my very first guest on Don't Work with Tossers. And thank you so much, Naomi, for joining me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.